So I'd like to go ahead and begin. And I've been told that my chime doesn't really translate because I haven't changed my audio settings. So to begin and to fully arrive to our practice today, I'm just going to invite everyone to bring your gaze inward. And for me, it helps me to close my eyes completely, but that isn't available to everybody. So maybe just turning your gaze downward, finding something beautiful to look at, just create some stillness in your visual sphere. Remember, friends, that you arrive to this practice exactly as you are and invite how you are in this moment to be perfect. There are a million ways to be in meditation, present time awareness. Sometimes it is in the Zen tradition where the focus is on maintaining a posture, keeping the visual information blank, and staying and cultivating as much stillness as possible. That is one kind of meditation. The way we walk can be a meditation. The way we eat, the way we sit, even the way we twitch around, as long as we're entertaining some degree of awareness, we can frame anything in our day as a meditation. I'd like to invite you all to breathe deeply because today we're going to take a metaphoric journey in meditation as a way of imagining and enacting the relief that comes with forgiveness. And forgiveness is the theme that we have been exploring for the entire month of March, and we're going to continue to explore it and enact it for the month of April as well. Forgiveness is a word and a concept that we throw around all the time. It's unique in the Buddhist perspective because, in some ways, forgiveness has nothing to do with anything or anyone external to you. As a Buddhist practitioner, we recognize that we have agency over our own minds, our own thoughts, emotions, our bodies, and our actions, and we have no agency over anyone else. So the Buddhist practice lends itself to a lot of healthy boundaries where we begin to understand deeply where we begin and end and where other people begin and end. And this is an important thing to keep in mind as we go into this meditation. This meditation is called the stoning, and it's a bit intense. And so I'd like you to remember that this is a metaphor. This is meant to be an image that you can use as a way of guiding and remembering your practice. It is a stark image as intended. And it is meant to bring you into deep awareness of a couple of things. One is the pressure that we put upon ourselves to be some ideal of perfection. The pressure we put on ourselves to get rid of half of who we are, which are the qualities that we tend to judge to be negative. And in that pressured moment, we kind of keep ourselves stuck, and then we cultivate habit energy around that negative energy, that negative pressure. Forgiveness is all about relieving pressure. Throughout the course of this meditation, if your mind wanders and you know it and you notice it, smile and take a deep breath and come back to the practice. If at any time the meditation gets uncomfortable and you feel like, oh, I can't deal with this, you can do a couple of things. One is you can breathe and remind yourself that you have resources and you have an extraordinary capacity to do difficult things. You can also mute my voice and just breathe. You can also leave the meeting. Please trust your knowing. In puritanical colonial America, there was a form of torture called stoning. And this is not throwing stones at someone else. This is something very different. A criminal, somebody accused, would be dug a very shallow place in the public square. Maybe a few inches deep, the length of, so that their bottom fit into this little shallow divot, all the way the length of the back, and maybe even a little bit of the head. The arms would rest above, the legs would rest above the ground. And slowly, 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 members of the community would lay heavy stones upon an individual, slowly putting pressure, adding pressure onto their chest, their shoulders, their pelvis, their stomach, and so forth, until they slowly suffocated and died. Terrible, terrible way to go. Meant to be humiliating, meant to be terrible. The capacity human beings have to be brutal to one another is great. And the capacity each of us has to take that external brutalizing force and turn it inward toward ourselves is also great. So let's take this image and put it into the context of self-forgiveness, habit energy, recovery. As human beings, we have the capacity to make enormous mistakes that harm other people, negatively affect other people. That is a stone we put on ourselves. It is a regret that we might hold, the weight of which is somewhere on us. I have this giant piece of quartz, this stone here, and it's cool and I can feel its weight. I'm putting it on my chest right now and I feel its weight. And this can be symbolic of a regret that I'm holding on to. And from that regret might stem other stones of regret that I continue to lay upon my body, putting pressure on myself, immobilizing myself, actually. And the negativity from this becomes a pattern. It becomes a habit energy. It becomes a behavioral response. Over and over again, we add negativity. We add weight and pressure to ourselves, constricting our movement, limiting our breath, distorting reality. Self-forgiveness is the relief we grant ourselves when we give ourselves permission to take away a stone. To identify a regret, some unskillful action, to see it clearly, to understand the conditions that motivated it, to stop adding stones because we feel so bad about it, and instead to do something different, to refrain from adding more pressure, to take that stone away, to alleviate that pressure, to grant ourselves some relief because we make a commitment to not repeat that habit, to not repeat that behavior, to learn from it. This doesn't mean the pattern, the habit energy is resolved completely. We might still make mistakes associated with it, but so long as we continue to resolve, so long as we continue to devote ourselves to keep learning, we might put a regret, a stone of regret on us to remind us, ooh, that was unskillful. That's mine. But I'm not going to keep it here. I'm going to learn from it, and then eventually I'm going to remove it. The Buddhist practice reminds us that we are responsible for removing our stones of regret. No one else will. In fact, what we have to contend with are other people approaching us and trying to put their stones, their projected emotions and experiences onto us. For instance, as a parent, I have definitely made some mistakes, and I have been unskillful, particularly with my speech. And I have regretted that. And my children have every right to be disappointed in me, to be frustrated with me, all of it. Absolutely. That is their experience. And I contributed to creating the conditions for it. And they may come to me with a stone of disappointment and say, Mom, I'm going to put this on you. And this is where boundaries come in. Is if I'm working with my unskillfulness, my regret, and I take that stone away, I put that stone down and I start to build a boundary with it. And I say, look, I know I have created the conditions of your disappointment, but your disappointment is your work. That is your emotional experience to start practicing with. The only thing I can do for me to heal your disappointment, your experience, it's not mine. My job is to learn from my mistake and to not do it again, to minimize that unskillfulness going forward. That's mine. And hopefully in the process that will lessen the other person's, my child's, disappointment. One of the things I have to do with my kids repeatedly is remind them that I'm not the mother I was 10 years ago. And I've been listening to the ways that I have hurt their feelings and made them feel insecure. And I keep talking to them and I keep showing them that I am listening and I'm present and I'm learning and I'm doing things differently. It's the only thing I can do. And their job now is to take that and do the same thing for themselves. We have harmed other people on the journey of recovery. There's no doubt about it. Many of us here have done terrible things under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And there are great heavy stones of regret that we are putting on ourselves and other people are trying to put upon us. But another person's disappointment, another person's hurt, another person's anger, those stones are theirs. And one of the things we have to wake up to is how often we receive those stones and just add the pressure to ourselves so that we are stuck, suffocating, miserable. This is an invitation to identify what stones of regret are yours, what stones of regret you have taken on from others, and how to take them off, and define your own boundary, your own agency through your cultivation of self-awareness and relief. To be awake is to liberate ourselves from the burial that is self-imposed. And we don't do it just for ourselves. We do it because at some point we take a look around and we see just how many shallow graves there are in the world, and how many people are laying in them, and how many people are putting stones of regret on themselves, burying themselves, limiting their precious lives. So we are here to liberate ourselves and learn from these regrets and take these stones off so that with compassion, loving kindness, profound care, interconnectedness, we can go to others and show them how to take their stones off too, relieve themselves. Everything you do to heal and transform enables you to be more present with loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity to all other sentient beings. It is why you are here. And we need your presence. We need the way the four limitless qualities are alive in you. And you cannot bring it forward if you are continuing to bury yourself in stones. I trust completely in your courage, your strength, your resourcefulness to slowly and gently remove the stones of regret. To forgive yourself and relieve yourself of this pressure, and to devote yourself to minimizing harm, minimizing repeating patterns that are not serving you, nor are they serving other beings. May your practice feel secure, strong, confident, and peaceful. We'll end our practice, friends, by taking a couple of deep breaths. Deep, deep breaths. Keeping in mind that there are so many people in the world who have so much pressure on them that they find it hard to breathe. Let us take this time to breathe for them. With that, let's go ahead and end our practice with a dedication of merit. And I invite you to take a noble posture where you're just sitting nice and tall, straight spine, so that your lungs can have the chance to really breathe in and out. I really love thinking about how the Buddha lived with Mara every day of his life. He lived with temptations, demons. He lived with antagonizing thoughts, haunting dreams, prickly memories, unskillful steps. He lived with all of that because he was a human being and he was cultivating a spiritual practice that helped him understand the causes and conditions of Mara for him. And he learned to embrace that. He learned to be friendly to his shadow. He learned to be gentle and curious. He learned to remove the shackles of his own suffering, so that in the process he wouldn't harm anyone else. And he devoted his whole life to being present to others, to teach them, to show them this way. And we are in his footsteps right now. We are breathing in his legacy. We are part of it. So no matter who you think you are, no matter how terrible you have been in the past, something really decent and amazing has enabled you to be here to practice. And that something is extraordinary, and it's you. May you take your extraordinary you out into the world and alleviate someone's suffering with your presence, with your smile, with your loving gaze, with whatever resource you have that is awake in you and calls to you to be shared. Know that it is worthy of respect and dignity, forgiveness and love. You are profoundly cherished, and I am deeply inspired by your practice. Thank you so much, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.